The distance from Sebring, Florida to Audi's American headquarters in Herndon, Virginia is precisely 949 miles. Most of it is a straight shot up I-95 and a trip that should take about 14 hours straight through. The drive isn't a short one. Even still, those of us on staff at Fourtitude have created a tradition of our own, making the journey by car, sort of our own long-distance enduro to commemorate the running of the 12 Hours of Sebring. That this was likely the final year for the brand's WEC squad to race in the iconic event, we decided to try something special and a little bit different ourselves. With changes going on in the world of sports car racing, this may have been the last year for cars like the Audi A8 team to compete in Sebring. We wanted to do something to kind of send a salute to that. And it turned out one of Audi's A8 3.0 TDIs, a new car in this market, was available, and maybe, just maybe, we could drive it home. Fortunately, that all worked out. The Sebring weekend came and went, and with another Sebring victory in the bag for Audi, it was time to pack up Camp Fourtitude and head home. Our convoy would be made up of two cars, the aforementioned A8 3.0 TDI and our own recently delivered Samoa Orange TTS line competition that would serve as an occasional camera car during the trip. The plan was to see how far we could get on one tank of fuel while traveling at real-world driving speeds, say 65 to 80 miles per hour, plus a few creative stops along the way. I'm George, that's Tim, and that's Bill, and we're driving the A8 3.0 TDI from Sebring, Florida to Herndon, Virginia today. Wish us luck, we hear it's snowing in Herndon. This new American A8 3.0 TDI is rated at 24 miles per gallon city, 36 miles per gallon highway, and at 28 miles per gallon overall. We were curious how that would compare with real-world numbers, and with that angle in mind, we loaded up the Glacier White A8 with 2 passengers and all their luggage. We also decided against hypermiling tactics, such as driving super slow or neutral downhill coasting. In fact, we did a few things that weighed against our efficiency. So normally this trip takes around 14 hours. We've got to return in our RV to Orlando. And it should be a lot of fun. Slow going. Route 27 north out of Sebring may be 4 lanes, but it's got a heck of a lot of stoplights along the way. It's also got a few distractions, and that works against efficiency. One such distraction was Legoland, Florida. We had to make a stop. Okay, so technically Legoland is meant for kids, but we'd heard that they had a scaled-down Daytona Motor Speedway here. It's made entirely of bricks. We've also got some other things, but really it was the racetrack that drew us in. We had to check it out. Our second stop was to return our Sebring home. It was a camper we'd rented from Cruise America. That company's corporate office is in Kissimmee, Florida, and required another 50 miles or so of stop-and-go traffic. Even worse, the start-stop function on the 8 had been turned off, and we'd forgotten to turn it back on. So much for taking advantage of that feature. Camper returned. We were finally able to get back on I-95. By mid-afternoon, we crossed into Georgia and took a diversion in order to skip the usual McDonald's road fare and experience some local flavor. Southern Soul Barbecue came highly recommended, a from-scratch barbecue joint located in beautiful St. Simon's Island, Georgia. The commute from I-95 was just about 15 miles off course, and in the end, well worth the added time and lack of efficiency. Back on I-95, we lost at least 1 mile per gallon off of our average. Still, the rest of the trip would likely be highway, so recovery was expected. About to cross into North Carolina, we made one such diversion at south of the border just after 10 p.m. This place is a bit of a legend, but maybe not for entirely good reasons. They have ridiculous use of neon signage and a kitschy Mexican theme. It's kind of a place you may seek out some cheesy souvenir, otherwise you're best getting back on the road. Motoring through North Carolina, we debated pushing through all night. By doing this, we'd have arrived at Audi's offices at 4 a.m. That would have meant we'd have skipped rush hour traffic near Richmond and Washington, D.C., but frankly, we were out of gas. We weren't out of diesel, but the humans were out of gas. Okay, so it's Tuesday morning. We're somewhere in North Carolina, I don't know, exit 95, which is fitting because we're right off of I-95. We may hit 800 miles today, which is great. That last quarter tank sometimes goes down a little faster than the rest of the tank, according to the range, but we're going to give it a try. And so I'm going to drive this morning, and Bill's going to watch a little Top Gear on the Bang & Olufsen audio system. The A8 still showed a quarter tank, so we really didn't mess with it. The TT took on fuel, we took on Krispy Kremes, and set out. we continued on, we wondered if that range would go down a little faster than it had before. We had about 10 miles to play with, we figured, and we'd hit the 800 mark, but we wouldn't have a whole lot left.
So we've got 20 indicated miles left on the range, and we're looking at another 10 miles to 800 miles. All that said, the gas is on empty, and it just started blinking at me, so I'm not sure. It's probably just trying to tell me that it's very important that I refuel very soon.
Somewhere around Richmond, Virginia, just south of, we hit the 800 mile mark.
Eight hundred.
We just reached 800.
Exit 41, Cortland. 3/4 mile.
We're going to go off at this exit.
Alright, we'll be right behind you.
And they've got an Exxon that hopefully has diesel. Oh, US diesel. There's a truck picture by that. I think we're going to try the Exxon. Hello, Cortland. Oh, it's right here.
Hey. Diesel!
So, 802 with 5 miles left. Cortland, Virginia.
We were ecstatic. We bragged about it everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, it didn't matter.
$22 gallons.
Getting closer to DC, the traffic started to snarl. That slowed us down a little bit, but at this point we no longer really cared about trying to conserve fuel. By about 3 p.m., we rolled down Ferdinand Porsche Drive and up to Audi's North American headquarters. And while we'd like to take credit for the feat, it's not exactly like we had to have some level of skill like one of Audi's R18 drivers. In the end, all we had to do was keep it between the lines on a straight highway, and maybe stop once in a while, not too far from the highway for those gluttonous meals. While we may not be heroes, the A8 has just made its own rival, and it may just qualify as one itself. 36 plus miles per gallon and 802 miles on one tank of fuel is certainly impressive. It's a number that most likely American consumers will certainly sit up and take notice of. And we're pretty proud of that fact.
So a few minutes ago, we got checked out by a Virginia state trooper. Pulled up and ran our tags. Almost passed us, then went back and checked our tags. I'm not sure why. We were driving slower at 70 miles per hour than an Audi like this should be going. So I'm George, that's Tim, and that's Bill. We're the ones driving the car from, let's start over.
Team.
Yeah.